Welcome to the DoubleACS Daily News. March 29th is Vietnam Veterans Day, and VFW Post 115 held a ceremony to honor veterans. Here's a short portion of the keynote speech given by Vietnam veteran Richard Fredette.
Thank you all for coming out to honor National Vietnam Veterans Day. And all you veterans that served before and after, I give you a big thanks because we're all brothers and sisters. In the early 60s, I was in high school. I can remember watching the news, and they would show clips of what was going on in Vietnam. In July 1965, I went in the Army, and in March 1966, I found myself in Vietnam. When I first arrived in country, there were around 200,000 troops, and by the time I left, in May of 1967, that number doubled. At the height of the war, I believe there was close to 600,000 troops at one time, and about 2.6 million served in Vietnam between 1959 and the time we withdrew all troops in 1975, 16 years, that was a long time. While in country we heard all about the protests back home against the war, Vietnam veterans were never welcomed home the way veterans are today. Our families welcomed us, but that was about it. We took off our uniforms and we went about our business and tried to go on with our life. But as time went on, we started feeling the effects of Vietnam. And veterans started going to the VA. And that wasn't a pleasant experience for many veterans back then. So a lot of them never went back. But years later, they did when things got better, when they realized that all our issues and injuries were related to our wartime service. Let's see. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, Agent Orange, and many other ailments. The effects from Agent Orange were denied for years. Vietnam veterans did not give up or back down, and we prevailed. I have heard stories from veterans that served after Vietnam thank us because we were made it better for them when they so rightfully deserved their benefits. And to anyone out there who is on the fence about going to the VA, I would suggest go because their care is the best in the world now, I think. Our legacy as Vietnam veterans will be the fact that we never gave up the fight for the benefits that we rightfully deserve. We made the VA accountable for all our injuries and illnesses that have plagued us for years. And let us not forget the 58,479 men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice, and the 1,244 Americans still not accounted for, and the 470 Americans that are in a non-recoverable category. And those numbers aren't even close to the Vietnam veterans who die every day from Agent Orange and suicide. I've had many friends over the years that died from Agent Orange. My disabilities are Agent Orange. I'm lucky, I'm standing here 78 years later, but I know a lot of guys that died really young from it. And lastly, Attleboro lost 9 men in Vietnam. Corporal James Albertini, U.S. Army. Captain Richard Glidden, U.S. Army. Lance Corporal Lawrence Woodson, U.S. Marine Corps. Petty Officer 3rd Class Robert Burns, U.S. Navy. First Lieutenant Francis Driscoll, U.S. Air Force. Specialist 4th Class Joseph Pillardo, U.S. Army. Lance Corporal Gary Flynn, U.S. Marine Corps. Corporal Joseph Nemirovsky, U.S. Marine Corps. Specialist 5th Class Herbert Sutton, U.S. Army. And I knew just about every one of those on this list. All gave some, and some gave all.